Hello, and welcome to the latest in the Somerford series of podcasts, focusing on a variety of cybersecurity subjects relevant to the region in the Gulf. Today, we are honoured to be joined by المدير التنفيذي لأمن المعلومات بالبنك Zand, the Chief Information Security Officer for Zand Bank, Hussain Al Khalsan. We also have James Astley, who is the General Manager for Somerford Associates in the region as well. So, gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Not too bad.
Ya Ustaz, thank you very much for your support for this podcast. We're very, very grateful for giving up your time. James, you're a regular podcaster, so this is nothing new to you.
No, looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to a different level of conversation. So.
Excellent. So,
Shukran.
Our absolute pleasure, sir. Pleasure. So, I think I'll start off with you. The growth in cybersecurity leadership role in the UAE has increased and improved in recent years, I would say, from what we're seeing. What I'm interested to know in you, what excited you about cybersecurity? How did you get into cybersecurity in the first place? Was there an overriding ambition to understand security, technology? I don't know. Please, over to you, sir.
It is, yeah. So thanks, John. Again, pleasure to be here with you on this podcast. I think we've been talking about this for
a long time. A long time.
This
far too long.
Yeah. So finally, we are here. So to start with your question, right, the way how it started with my career. So I've been in the banking field for the whole of my career. I initially started in 2003. That's where I was an IT engineer, doing different roles in terms of IT desktop support, help desk, fixing laptops, computers, printers, and helping the users. And because this was part of my study when I studied business information technology as part of the higher colleges of technology in Dubai. Then it moved and I progressed into like server admin support. It's like, managing servers, installing, backing up, all these disks and
the foundations.
Staying late nights on the server room, which is very cold, right? So that's where then moved also parallelly into the network devices. So I was good at networking as well as the application and the support and server support. So later on, I think in the bank, the development of IT security as a role came up as a necessity, because I guess that was one of the findings of a penetration testing, because we had, quite serious issues.
Of course.
So you had to really have a dedicated team to take care of the security aspect. So that's where I moved into, and I was more interested into IT security. What made me interested in that, it's, I would say, the kid inside me, the curiosity. I mean, I was pretty young those days, right? So the curiosity about how things work and how to protect and how to ensure nothing breaks. But at the same time, I was breaking things at home, back home, right? So
much to the delight of your parents, I'm sure.
Exactly. So
yes.
Now I was fixing my own computer, sometimes burning things out, sometimes downloading purposely viruses and malwares just to see how things work. But at the same time, rebuilding everything from scratch. So again, this gave me really pretty solid idea in terms of how operating system work, how the hardware and the software work together, which made me really good at also troubleshooting problems when I was doing my, when I was practicing my job basically in the bank. So, and then this transitioned from IT security into information security back then in 2008, I would say. But that's where the whole information security and cybersecurity started, right? And my goal is to be a CISO, and here I am. So that's
why was your goal to be a CISO? That because you had aspirations for leadership,
One is yes, and the second, I realized that's becoming imminent issue, and I foresee that this becoming really important for every organization to have, and until that time, I think we realized the importance of information security or cybersecurity, but no one really was interested into really taking that particular role, right? It's not an easy role. At the same time, we know that if something goes wrong, your neck might be on the line. So, which is I was really ready for that, because that's what the responsibility I wanted to take.
And you landed at Zand Bank, and in many ways, Zand Bank is a bit of a trailblazer in the region, anyway, isn't it? Because it sounds as if there's a really, really good affiliation between your professional desire and that of the bank, in terms of stretching your own professional development.
I think the opportunity in Zand accelerated my career progression massively. The way how digitization accelerated by COVID. So this is what happened to me. So I think the opportunity that I got to build everything from scratch and be a CISO, to me, this is a PhD in becoming a PhD in cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
So that where it led me into many different levels in terms of building the whole team, building the whole ecosystem, fully in cloud, born in cloud, fully digital. Try to solve problems that you had never saw before, with the regulators, with the data residency, with all these complexity that a legacy bank was hesitant to go to, where we jumped into it, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is a PhD.
I was just going to say for you as well, what you're seeing throughout the region in terms of that forward-leaning approach by organizations who are really keen to sort of, I guess, capitalize on the region's pro-business approach. Is that something you would recognize and see?
Absolutely. The Zand banks of the world, I think we're going to see more over time, and the regulators are starting to allow the development of this. And I think the interesting thing is you've just touched on the legacy banks, and actually they're trying to catch up, and it's hard because if you have deep-rooted infrastructure, plumbing, networking, actually you're trying to modify and develop and change, but your core business is still here. Whereas actually the ability to do something from scratch in modern business is very rare. And I completely agree. It is almost like a PhD, because you have the ability to learn the lessons on the fly, but develop what you believe to be the future and what you believe will be mitigating future threats, but also developing the infrastructure and a network that will allow the bank to scale. And actually that's the beauty of a digital bank, that you can react very fast. You are very fluid. You can agile, all these terminologies that we hear. That's a very exciting thing that I believe this region will continue to adopt, because this region already is very aggressive for growth, hugely forward in terms of digital. And we know all the buzzwords that we all know in the region. But this is why I fully believe this.
I think most regulators are pretty much the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the business, and there are so many potential grey areas that you need to be demonstrating that sort of, that you're trying to reach 100% of what but actually they recognise that's probably unlikely.
But it's a journey at the end, right? So if it's a new area or a new domain, I think, it's a journey. You walk with them hand in hand to ensure that there is mutual benefit for both, right?
So going back to what you're seeing in the financial services industry in this part of the world, what would you say were the biggest challenges that you face and the biggest risks?
If I would pick the top three, the first one would be acknowledging that cyber risk is a risk. That's my top number one, right? The reason why I'm saying this is, I think until today, we hear our colleagues and security professionals having to justify why this is a risk, for example, or justify their own budget or their own strategy to the board, and sometimes they don't even sit at the board level. So I think acknowledgement of cyber risk is a risk is number one challenge that I think this region is having. Second, I would say in the likes of advanced, like the APTs, the advanced threat, that's happening here and there. And we know the obvious reasons is the ideological, issues that's happening in this region. So it's a nation state APTs, which is, not something that you want to.
And this part of the world is surrounded by them, aren't they? Let's face it.
Exactly.
People who are interested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of I would say, the second biggest risk. And the third is the emerging AI-powered, threats or attacks.
Long to mention AI, did it?
Yeah. So I would say these are the biggest risk, top three for time being, the way I look at it.
Okay. I'll come on to you in a second.
Yeah,
I want to pick you up on one point you said there about the acknowledgement of the risk. And I just wonder, do you think executives, I don't want to single your bank out or any particular bank, think more broadly that boardrooms understand the extent of the risk?
Again, I think in this region, and there have been a lot of initiatives and advancements, and I think, with no doubt, we have seen what Cybersecurity Council is doing, but at the same time, what Dubai government is doing. Having a cybersecurity strategy nationwide, which was really approved and announced by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, is key. But I think, again, the question is, why do we still have, problems, and why do we still have, compromises happening and breaches here and there? The main issue is, in my view, is being reactive rather than proactive. So I will pay attention and sign a blank check when I'm compromised.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to do this when I'm not. It's like, if it's, if nothing happened in 40 years, why should it happen now? This kind of thought process needs to change. And I'm not saying it's not, it's changing. And I believe, many people are realizing that with what's happening around the world and, the impact that are happening. But I think it's still, we're not yet fully there. And I think that needs to change as a mindset.
And would you acknowledge all of those points?
I would, yeah. It's really interesting because awareness is a critical topic for many security professionals. And then the understanding of risk as well. And actually the ability to quantify risk. Yeah. That's a difficult measure. I think I completely agree. The boards and executives are getting more awareness. With awareness breeds inquisitive nature. And then that allows then questions to be asked to help quantify what risk is. But also risk is now defined in many different ways. And is it a number? Is it a scale? Is it quantitative in terms of the different measures that we now look at? So that makes it more challenging. And also the fact that there is now so much more risk and threat that's being brought into the world.
Yeah.
And the AI piece, absolutely. You think how quickly now things can be created. Criminals as a service. There's things now available, but people can go and be in a bedroom and download something, and if they want to go and do something malicious or outward, then they can do. The thing I think over here is you've got to also balance is the rate of growth. Dubai and the UAE is growing so rapidly that the infrastructure is growing so rapidly. So you're almost a little bit of cat and mouse. So we were saying earlier that you're trying to keep up.
You're introducing additional risk, aren't you?
Absolutely. But you're developing. And the rate of development is so vast that equally that's then going to have blind spots, and you're going to have different areas that or threats that you might not have considered, because actually you're trying to develop so fast in terms of the infrastructure and the business, which is the beauty and one of the most appealing things of why organizations are coming into the region. But then for security professionals, that then adds another layer of complexity.
Again, don't get me wrong, right? When it comes to risk and the way how board doesn't understand the risk, I think as a security professional, I think it's our responsibility as well, is to really articulate the exact, problem or the exact risk that we're trying to, to prove over there. Because again, we all talk about, as a security professional, you can't talk the same level, with your executive to the board. You need to know the, business language and talk to them to that language, how you quantify and all these kind of stuff. But I think there is a huge responsibility on the security leadership in terms of how do you really articulate and make them aware.
I mean, you then risk the board thinking, oh, here we go again. Nothing is happening. The CISO is after more money to pay for additional technology. He's talking about threats that we don't really see. They're not affecting us. So why do we need to? Is there also the possibility that they are becoming essentially immune or numb to the whole sort of process of sort of organizational cyber resilience, if you like?
Not really. Again, I think the idea is for them to think very, to make them think very, how can I say, in a very normal scenario that why do I need an insurance? I mean, think about it, that this is an insurance, right? Why would I pay an insurance for my car where I know how to drive? I'm not going to make an accident, right? So why should I? So the same question is here. I mean, are you not willing to pay an insurance for something not to go wrong? That's the whole idea, in my view. Yes, then we can talk about cyber insurance and all those, but I'm not even going there. But I think is to make them really think, in a layman language, is why this is important, right? And I would put it in this way, right? It's an insurance. Now, is it guaranteed that something doesn't go wrong? No.
Well, I was going to say about, because of course, I mean, I remember the floods, which you'll remember as well.
Yeah,
I mean, who would have predicted that?
Exactly.
And, building in that sort of resilience.
But, exactly. So it is the same point, right? So resilience is more important in terms of, how quickly you can get back, right? And how quickly you can adapt and be more agile to come back from a breach or an incident or anything that could go wrong. So that's the key. Something will happen at one point in time, and we know it's a technology. Technology fails you sometimes, and we know this, right?
People make mistakes.
Technology always fails human.
Yeah.
Now, it's a technology at the end. And in my view is that, okay, am I ready when that happened?
I mean, we saw the impact of the CrowdStrike.
Exactly.
Completely innocent sort of the manner in which it was done. But the impact, the global impact, was incredible.
Yeah.
Who would have predicted that? Who could have predicted that?
Yeah.
That's part of the response, right? It's the resilience piece. I think any security professional that's worth their salt will say we're not completely ever protected. We do our best. We will try and put measures in place, and we'll try and do the best we can to predict and protect. But actually, the resilience piece is almost more important. When things go wrong, how do you react? And that's why we do lots of testing, and we had lots of scenarios, and we have blue team, red team, purple team, and all these scenarios, because we need to have assurance that we understand if this scenario happens, how do we react to it? And that's almost becoming as more important now in terms of certainly larger enterprises.
Yeah.
Because the protection piece, we kind of know the protection, What do you think?
I fully agree. But at the same time, you need to be realistic of your own capability, right?
Okay.
So yes, I can, but to a certain capability. Maybe I can come back and, be more resilient, but to that capability. Again, as I said, I'm not sure, I've not done it, and I'm not sure anyone has done it, is to have a conversation at the board level to say that, to what level are you expecting me to protect this particular organization? Is it against a 0-day attack from a nation state sponsored adversaries?
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different level, right? Or is it to a certain level that I can say, I can protect to a certain level where this is my capability. Now, of course, you can't do what you don't have. And it's important for me is to know your own capability, is assessment of your own capability. You can't overpromise that I can do this where you know that the capability is not even there.
Overpromising and delivering.
And it's more knowing, again, security. Number one, what are your critical assets? What are you trying to protect?
Yeah.
And then work back from there. We are all sometimes suckered into this perception of the new technology can do these multiple things, features and benefits and capabilities. And it's good to explore, as we were discussing earlier, to look at what is the new capability, but still fundamentally, what is my business?
Yeah.
What does my business need to do every day? Okay, so it's transact. So I need to be able to allow transactions to flow. Okay, how do I ensure that happens safely? And how do I ensure my end users have a secure, positive experience?
Still able to function. I mean, that's critical, isn't it? I mean, we were talking with the region's largest payment provider the other day, and actually he was saying, the CISO was saying, how very often it's easy to forget that there are people at the end of the transactions that his organization are processing.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it right, there is a risk of life or death, potentially, if someone can't get tablets or something or whatever it is. And sometimes it's easy to forget that. And I guess in the financial services industry, you're in the same sort of space to an extent, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, again, think about, big corporate.
One of the other risks one of the other factors you mentioned was AI and the evolution of AI as we're seeing. I just want to dig into that, of course.
Yeah.
What is your perspective on it, and how it is sort of being used to essentially as another threat vector to and introducing additional risk? I mean, perhaps just to sort of illustrate the point, in the UK recently, we've had some very high profile ransomware attacks that have been attributed to AI generated sources. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on all of that.
So Gen AI is a brilliant technology, right? And my view is these are opportunities that could really massively change the way how either people do their job or how organizations also deliver what they are supposed to. So AI has really extremely, I would say, potential in every means and ways. So I think the use cases that you can think are endless when it comes to Gen AI. And my advice is to urge all organizations to look at that as an opportunity rather than a threat.
Yep.
Because if people look at it that, it's going to replace my seat, then it's going to be a threat, right? So it's more an opportunity, but I think the human element is always key when it comes to certain aspect of how organization would look at it. On the other side, I mean, it's the good thing, but on the other side, we know that the adversaries will have access to the same nice technology to be misused somehow to their own advantages. The concerns will be looked at that side, where how do I make sure as an organization I use the good technology against the same bad technology to ensure that nothing goes wrong. As you rightly mentioned, yes, and the likes of the whole deep fake and AI being generating, all these deep voice, deep fake videos, and and be able to manipulate every system. I mean, lately I've read even an article that a KYC system was bypassed by an AI generated documents. So that's to me is a fundamental change in the way how things should be relooked, right?
Yeah.
So today, the controls that I have, I need to really go back and think, would AI be able to bypass all these controls? The answer in some of them might be yes. Now, what are the alternatives? So I think the industry also have a huge burden in terms of to come up with ways that it's anti-AI kind of, or AI attack resistant kind of approach, right? So how